In my experience, people can tell when you've emerged from a dark place because your happiness and joy seem different. You can gauge and perceive darkness differently after you've been through it. The long-hidden truth regarding Marcus Lamb's death has finally been revealed by Rebecca Lamb. The official version was accepted without question for quite some time. However, new and shocking information has emerged, which may alter the course of events. Rebecca finally told you what she had been keeping from you, but why? As news spreads, Joni Lamb becomes the center of attention. Was it shock, wrath, or something more profound that prompted her initial reaction? Marcus Lamb's legacy is at jeopardy because the once uniform Lamb family is now the subject of much gossip. Is everyone prepared to face the truth now that it has been revealed? Marcus Lamb's death is supposedly being circulated in more and more circles. Many were shocked to hear about Marcus Lamb's death, which sparked much discussion among Christians. The manner of his death, however, became an increasingly popular topic of inquiry as time passed. Daystar television network was founded by Marcus, who was a prominent figure in Christian television for many years. His preaching, faith, and unwavering commitment to spreading the gospel won him the love of millions. It was initially believed that COVID-19 was the cause of his death. In light of the worldwide catastrophe, the outcome was predictable, albeit sad. As time passed, however, rumors began circulating that cast doubt on the veracity of the official story. At first, only Marcus's closest friends and family knew what was happening. Whether Marcus had been ill for some time prior to the pandemic, or if there were underlying issues that caused his rapid deterioration, was a matter of debate. After learning that COVID-19 complications were listed as the official cause of death, many began to question whether there was more to the story. The public had to speculate based on what little information was available as to whether or not COVID-19 was the actual cause of his death. According to those who knew Marcus, he was up against more than simply the virus. He allegedly kept quiet about his many chronic health issues, including heart problems and others that kept coming back for quite some time. Given that he had been appearing relatively healthy up until a few weeks ago, his death appeared to have come suddenly and without warning. Did anything go unnoticed? Is there anyone in his inner circle who knows more than they're letting on? Rumors circulated that the Lambs were trying to keep quiet about the news, which only served to fuel speculation. How committed the Lambs were to their job and to each other was something that many people looked up to. But everyone was wondering what was going on with the unusual quiet after Marcus' death. Why weren't they being more forthright in their account of events? Some began to suspect that the family was being dishonest, either to protect the network's reputation or to spare themselves embarrassment. Perhaps Marcus was coping with a sensitive personal matter that he felt uncomfortable discussing in public. Alternately, could there have been a sinister motive behind his demise that no one was willing to discuss? Some hypotheses began to emerge. Supposedly, Marcus had a lot on his plate in the months leading up to his death. It wasn't easy to run Daystar, a multi-million-dollar television network. His health may have taken a hit, according to some sources, due to the pressures of leading such a massive organization and being in the spotlight for so long. Would his quick fall have been worsened by the stress? There appeared to be a connection between his health and his personal issues. Some speculated that Marcus's death occurred just as things were beginning to fall apart behind the scenes due to a financial scandal or legal issues. The Christian community was shocked by the thought that the Lamb family might be hiding something, even though these claims were never proven. Daystar, a religious network, allegedly faced deceit and cover-up. It originated in Texas, the site of the tragic death of COVID-19 survivor Marcus Lamb, the contentious head of a Christian television network. The conservative televangelist gained notoriety last year when individuals and organizations opposed to vaccinations and lockdowns were given extensive airtime on his network, Daystar. Reporter Maura Barrett of NBC News has the details. Tragically, journalist Marcus Lamb lost his battle with the COVID-19 virus after publicly opposing the vaccine and warning hundreds of millions of people worldwide. They don't even know what is in the shot. He frequently spread misinformation on his network, which is highly popular among evangelical Christians nationwide. He explained to his son, "They're giving shots to people whose immune systems are already weak." He even went so far as to term it as God's work. Marcus may have been suffering from hidden mental health issues such as depression, according to both his detractors and his friends. Though many were aware of Marcus's leadership and preaching abilities, others worried that the strain of ministry had taken a toll on his mental health. The idea that a loved one could be trying to hide their suffering was shocking to many. But suppose Marcus hadn't spoken about his pain. Is it possible that it hastened his downfall? Subterranean activities may have been more complex than initially believed. The media, which is perpetually seeking stories, gave these reports a lot of attention. In their pursuit of answers regarding Marcus's sudden demise, the media began to delve deeper into his background. After speaking with people who had worked with them before, friends, and churchgoers, word began to spread. Marcus allegedly felt emotionally and spiritually drained after engaging in secret conversations with other influential figures in the church world, according to those close to him. Marcus wanted no one to know that something was happening behind closed doors. Could he have gotten sicker as a result of the stress of dealing with difficult personal events? As word got out, Christian factions began to quarrel more frequently. Several friends and admirers gathered to express their condolences and support for the Lamb family at this difficult time. They believed the official cause of death should be accepted at face value because Marcus's family had done all they could to assist him. As a devout Christian, prominent figure in Christian society, and devoted family man, Marcus had much to offer. Despite the tragic loss, some felt it was impolite to question his demise. On the other hand, there were many who felt the Lambs owed an explanation to their followers. They felt the need to reveal the truth, whatever it may be, about Marcus's death, because remaining silent was leaving people to speculate. On social media, some even demanded that the Lamb family reveal more details about Marcus's death. The tension increased as time passed. How much the family should reveal and whether the public was being kept in the dark were topics of differing opinions. The idea that killing Marcus wasn't as simple as it appeared spread rapidly and was believed by many. The mental breakdown was supposedly brought on by the strain and stress of the pandemic and health issues, according to some. Many speculated that Marcus's mental health had been compromised due to unresolved issues or guilt from his past, which he may have been battling in private. Despite the rumors, the Lamb family remained relatively silent. Joni Lamb, Marcus's widow, had spoken publicly about her husband's passing. Despite the careful wording and lack of information, it remained ambiguous. Although she expressed her utmost remorse, she refrained from providing any additional details regarding Marcus's final days or his illness. Quietness exacerbated the situation. Joni remained silent, as if overwhelmed by emotion. Did she want to leave something out? Curious about the circumstances surrounding Marcus Lamb's death, more and more people started to hear about it. As time passed, it became more apparent that news of Marcus Lamb's death would remain in the public consciousness. The once respected Lamb family, known for their strength and religion, found themselves engulfed in a tempest of speculation and uncertainty as more and more questions were being raised. What actually transpired? It appeared as though the truth regarding Marcus's demise was fairly straightforward. Was something else occurring, though? According to the rumors, not even Marcus's loved ones were aware of the reality. "Look what you have done to this family," she said to me as I served in the dark room while caring for Marcus at the hospital on his last night, which was at around 3 a.m. I finally broke down and texted my mom, "I can't do this anymore." I prayed to God saying, "You feel the pain of my heart." He listened. "I know, my God, you're protecting me. You'll get me out of here. That was my last night with him. The following day he passed away. I was devastated. Regarding Marcus Lamb's marriage to Joni Lamb and his many jobs, it is reasonable to say that he had an extraordinary career. As the founder of Daystar television network, his aim was to use media to reach millions of people with the message, and he accomplished this beyond anyone's expectations. Marcus was a prominent figure in Christian radio and television. Daystar became one of the largest Christian networks globally as a result of Marcus's dedication and hard work. His love for faith-based television and his desire to share the gospel were fundamental to his work. Over the years, Marcus gathered a dedicated following of fans and viewers who admired his leadership and his talent for connecting with them on a personal level. His charisma and strong faith helped him become a household name in Christian media, and his name is well known. However, Marcus's career was not without its challenges. Juggling the demands of leading a large network with his personal life was no easy feat. Being responsible for a global mission meant that there were always going to be pressures. As Daystar expanded, so did the duty and criticism. Despite the weight of responsibility, Marcus remained resolute in his commitment to running the network honestly and creating something that would aid in the global spread of the gospel word. However, Marcus's personal life was burdened by the ministry's expectations and the media's relentless pursuit of him. In the midst of his work, he was frequently photographed with his wife, Joni Lamb, who served as both his life partner and mission partner. Joni had been by his side since the beginning, and they had built Daystar into the successful network it is today. Their marriage was often cited as an example of faith and loyalty, and they appeared to be utterly dependent on each other, whether at home or at work. Joni's strength, grace, and unfailing support played a crucial role in Daystar's expansion. She, like Marcus, hosted shows and interacted with the audience, and they were united in their desire to share the gospel and aid those in need. For a long time, they were considered as the ID. The way they worked together and had a family together was much lauded, but the road to marriage was not without its challenges. Like any marriage, Marcus and Joni had to face the tough parts of their public lives and the constant pressures from the outside world. They worked side by side, but running Daystar took them in different directions, so they rarely had time to be alone. Despite this, they stuck together and supported each other through the good times and the bad. Their marriage was not without its ups and downs, but they remained faithful to each other and their goal. Remember this for Daystar's future. The cloud of God represents God's presence and power. However, there were perks to living a famous life that didn't become apparent until much later in life. There are a lot of them. In fact, your mom just listed several excellent Metroplex churches that were once the greatest but lost their heavenly influence when their pastors stopped listening to God's voice. Holy cow, we don't even think about it that way. In order for the blessing to endure in your life, marriage, family, and Daystar, you must constantly be led and guided by the Holy Spirit in all your decisions, attitudes, and ways of thinking. Please, God. Joni Lamb's role in bringing the family down and Rebecca's fury. Joni Lamb has always played a significant role in the development of Daystar television network. She rose to fame in Christian media as a result of her co-founding of the organization with her late husband Marcus. Daystar became one of the largest Christian TV networks in the world, reaching millions of homes across the globe. However, behind closed doors, there was much more happening in Joni and Marcus's marriage and in the Lamb family. The pressures of managing a global network, as well as the mental strain of a marriage under a court order, began to impact their personal lives, and Joni and Marcus began to fight. The public admired her for her kindness, strength, and strong faith. Over the years, their relationship began to deteriorate. To outsiders, they were the epitome of a perfect Christian power couple, but behind that facade, there were strains. Joni had always been fiercely protective of her family and their mission, but word got out that things were getting tense. Marcus, once the dynamic boss of Daystar, had grown distant and reclusive, dealing with private issues that he avoided discussing publicly. Joni, meanwhile, appeared more preoccupied with her career and the network, devoting herself fully to the public aspect of their mission, even as their marriage began to crumble. Their children, particularly Rebecca, were becoming increasingly enraged by this. Rebecca saw her parents balance their busy personal lives and well-known jobs as a child, and she had always admired her mother's strength and determination. The older Rebecca got, the more she saw that her mother's love for Daystar seemed to put the family last. Joni had worked very hard to keep up a perfect image, but it started to feel like a show. She saw how her father, who used to be strong and the lively figure, turned into a shadow of the man he used to be. As Marcus pulled away from his family, she saw that he was stressed out by his duties, and, in her eyes, Joni's drive had made their relationship difficult. For Rebecca, this made her feel deeply betrayed. She had always been close to her dad, and it was hard to see him get worse. We gave all of our evidence to Ash Day. I was let go the following day, Friday, November 16th, after a reporter contacted Daystar on Friday, November 15th, seeking a comment. Although we were being pursued by private investigators and threatened with harm, we felt compelled to speak with a journalist because, as the old adage goes, when you bring something to light, things get better. I received a strong sense from God that, despite my pain, I should remain in the role that God had given me and not abandon it. We don't feel safe at home, so Susie and I are currently at an undisclosed location. We have already provided all of the evidence to multiple national reporters and to Julie Roy, who is penning an article that is due out soon. They ought to be penning stories that will grace the news pages in the near future, by this afternoon. No one ever told us this would be our daily reality. We prayed to God for months hoping He would redirect our course, but ultimately we must obey. You have to speak, He said. It would have been easier to simply walk away, but if He says, I'm calling you to do this, then we must. What hurt Rebecca the most was that she suspected her mother was involved. Joni had publicly supported Marcus, but Rebecca couldn't help but feel that her mother's devotion to the network had diminished her love for the family. She started to believe that her mother was more concerned with maintaining the image of an ideal family and church than with nurturing the relationships within the family. Despite the worsening family situation, Rebecca's anger toward her mother intensified. She began to believe that Joni's ambition had taken precedence over the well-being of her family. As her father's physical and mental health deteriorated, she couldn't help but wonder if Joni's intense ambition had contributed to this. Rebecca believed that her mother had allowed the church's demands to consume their lives, leaving little time for personal connection or emotional support. She became angry with Joni for failing to recognize the gravity of the family's predicament, the toll it was taking on Marcus, and the fact that it was causing their marriage to fail. Despite Rebecca's growing understanding of her family's dynamics, her resentment of Joni only grew stronger. I watched as my mother dominated the public narrative and painted a picture of a united family, but behind the scenes, the fissures were widening. Rebecca believed that her mother's obsession with appearing perfect and her anxiety over maintaining the appearance of a flawless ministry were causing their family discord. It was hard for me to accept that the woman I had admired as an example was now the one I blamed for their family's disintegration. In private, I began to vent my frustrations to close friends, but I felt betrayed whenever my mother refused to acknowledge that they were having problems. I spoke at length about how Joni had prioritized her public image over her father's feelings. She described how difficult it was for her to witness her mother's continued involvement in church activities despite Marcus's deteriorating health. Rebecca was well aware that her mother's actions, or lack thereof, had been a major source of tension within the family. Word of the Lamb's imperfections spread, leading some to speculate about the nature of their relationship. Some speculated that Joni's ambition had driven a wedge between her and Marcus, leading him to fall, while others held the view that Rebecca's resentment of her mother extended beyond the ministry and into the ways in which Joni's actions had altered the dynamics within their family. Regardless, Joni's biggest concern was always the public's perception of her. Always prepared with a smile and a word of faith, she continued to present herself as the rock-solid member of the church. A great deal more transpired in the background. The once strong and ununited Lamb family was now struggling to overcome the after effects of years of hidden feuds, with resentment and treachery festering beneath the surface. The truth regarding the Lamb family and Joni's involvement in their strained relationships became more convoluted as the rumors progressed.